Right now, outgoing Mayor Tiffany Henyard's name has been removed from a sign outside Village Hall in South Suburban Dalton. In its place, incoming Mayor Jason House's name.
Have you heard from Tiffany? Has she conceded? Has she said she accepts the results to you yet?
I have not heard anything from former Mayor Henyard.
Riding around and get it. Riding around and get it.
Who easily defeated Henyard in February's Democratic primary and then won the April 1st general election. He'll take the oath of office May 5th. While Henyard's name has been removed from the sign, she remains listed as mayor on the Village website.
All right, you guys. It looks like all the hard work put in by the trustees over the past 4 years, along with the nonstop pressure from dedicated residents, has finally paid off. Tiffany Henyard's name has officially been taken down, and in her place, the name that probably should have been there from the beginning is now up. Former senior trustee and now Mayor Jason House. Honestly, it feels long overdue. Jason House has been a steady presence, and many believe he was always the right choice for leadership. Interestingly, Jason was initially asked to take on the role much earlier.
Jason House.
Having been duly elected to the office of trustee.
Having been duly elected to the office of trustee. I was on that ticket. I was asked many times to run for mayor, but at that time I elected against running for mayor. I'm here to give my support and endorsement for trustee Tiffany Henyard. My decision of who I supported for mayor, I greatly regret. I bought into it hook, line, and sinker 100%. I thought that, okay, if you're saying talk to your board, work with your board.
You cannot, and I repeat, cannot pay a bill because you choose to. The entire body have agreed to not pay that one particular vendor. So what I'm saying, or what I'm asking as a trustee, is that you report to your board. That's the structure, that's the order that you ignore every time. What I'm asking you, if you want something paid, put it before your board.
We're going to make sure all of this happens. And to see that it was live.
People wanted Jason House to be mayor. There was real community support behind him running. But if you know anything about Jason, he strikes me as someone who likes to think things through before making a move. Maybe at that time, he just didn't feel ready for the responsibility. Or maybe he simply wasn't willing to jump into something without being fully prepared. Tiffany Henyard, on the other hand, is a completely different story. She definitely wanted the position, and by any means necessary. She's the kind of person who goes after what she wants, head first and full throttle. That kind of boldness can be a good thing if your intentions are pure and you're doing it for the benefit of your community. But if you've been paying attention to the situation long enough, then you probably already know that many of her actions have seemed to serve her own interests, not those of the residents. In my opinion, over the course of this entire saga, we've repeatedly seen her display narcissism, hypocrisy, and a stunning level of double standards. I've said this before and I'll say it again, I'm not a licensed psychologist or professional in human behavior, so I'm not here to diagnose anyone. But based on the evidence and behavior on display, I'd even go so far as to say she has some traits of a sociopath. If you watch my channel, especially at least 3 of my videos, you've seen multiple instances of her being called out. These aren't just isolated moments. This pattern has been noticeable since her time as trustee and continued right into her tenure as mayor. Today, we're taking a trip down memory lane. We're going back to 2014 to revisit trustee Tiffany Henyard. That's when she was still new to politics, still trying to prove she was in it for the people. The issue she's talking about in the footage is one that followed her all the way through her political career. Housing. Yes, if you guessed that before I said it, drop a house in the comments and let me know your thoughts. In the clip, Henyard is speaking to residents about housing and abandoned properties in Dalton. At that time, she emphasized wanting residents to have first priority in buying these homes. If you have any issues related to housing, please contact me. I'm the chairperson of housing, or you can meet me at Village Hall. And please take advantage of the foreclosure defense attorney while he's here. I don't want you calling me after you've lost your house. Use the help while it's being offered. She sounded sincere. She encouraged residents to take action before they were in crisis. She continued, the first item on the agenda is village-owned abandoned property. I want to hear from you, the residents. I want you to tell the board what you think we should do. Don't be silent. Take 2 or 3 minutes and speak up. That tone, inviting, supportive, even empowering, was a far cry from what we saw later when she held a mayoral title. And yes, you might have noticed someone lurking behind her in that clip. That's Stan Brown. Of course, always popping up around Tiffany. Their connection goes way back, but that's a topic for another video. Now, As chairperson of housing, it wouldn't have seemed odd for her to implement housing-related programs. After all, she was heavily involved in real estate. On the surface, that could be seen as a strength, experience in the field. But in reality, it raised a few eyebrows and even more questions. Conflict of interest. Anyone? A perfect example is the Section 8 Mold House incident. If you're unfamiliar, here's the rundown. While serving as a trustee, Henyard rented out a property to a Section 8 tenant. That home was in such bad shape, mold, disrepair, and other issues, that the tenant had to relocate and stay in a hotel paid for by the village. There were even accusations that Henyard had used her position to pass the home inspection, despite the poor condition of the house. It was an absolute mess. I did a whole video on that situation, and I'll link in the description if you want to go down that rabbit hole. That whole incident may have been the tipping point for some people. It contributed to a growing lack of trust and ultimately, in my opinion, led to her being removed from the housing committee. But let's go back to 2014 again for a moment. Henyard wasn't just talking about housing back then. She was actively pushing for action. One of her proposals involved auctioning off village-owned properties. Yes, you heard that right. We're unloading our village-owned property inventory. The auction will be held in April, 2 months away. Why April? So residents can use their tax refunds to bid on these homes. I urge everyone to participate. She even added a disclaimer, but please do your homework. Make sure you can afford this. These are vacant properties, and they need major repairs. You'll need escrow. Don't jump in blind. That's what caught my attention. Back then, she warned residents. She acknowledged that the properties were in rough shape and might not be for everyone. She encouraged people to consider the risks. That disclaimer made it seem like she genuinely cared, like she wanted the community to benefit. But responsibly, that's a very different Tiffany Henyard than the one we later saw pushing the controversial block-by-block initiative as mayor. Fast forward to her time as mayor, and the tone completely changed. There were no disclaimers, no cautious encouragement. Instead, we got fiery speeches and emotional outbursts. The problem is, we keep spending money. You keep telling me to tweak this, change that, jump through hoops just to get something passed for the people. That's the problem. And I'm tired of asking you guys to do what's right. She was no longer inviting people to collaborate or consider risks. She was pushing, demanding, and seemingly unwilling to compromise. As a trustee, she seemed approachable and measured, even if there were questionable actions happening behind the scenes. As mayor, her tone shifted to frustration, blame, and defensiveness. That's not to say she didn't try to implement programs or spark change, but her approach felt different, and many residents noticed. In both roles, she talked about helping residents access housing, but the delivery and attitude told two very different stories. So, as we reflect on the evolution of Tiffany Henyard, from trustee to mayor, it's clear that her leadership style changed. Whether that change came from increased pressure, ambition, or a shift in priorities, only she can say for sure. But the footage speaks for itself. And if you're interested in exploring this journey in more detail, I've got a ton of videos on my channel comparing her time as trustee with her term as mayor. Check them out, and let me know in the comments what you think changed the most about her approach. And if you're new here, please give this video a like. Returning subscriber, you know what to do. Hit that like button too. Let's keep this conversation going. Tiffany Henyard's rise in local politics has been an interesting journey, marked by ambition, controversy, and a series of bold proposals. During her time as a trustee, she was known for pushing her ideas with determination. However, as time went on, it became clear that her relentless drive to push through her plans had both positive and negative consequences. Many residents and trustees began to see a side of Tiffany that wasn't as transparent as it initially seemed. Let's talk about her time as a trustee, particularly her infamous block-by-block plan. Tiffany was often criticized for attempting to steamroll her ideas through without much compromise, despite knowing full well that they might lead to situations where people would end up in homes they couldn't afford. The question everyone was left asking: what would happen to those properties? Would they be returned to the village? Or would they just end up in the hands of Tiffany and her allies? While this is just speculation on my part, the trustees clearly sensed something wasn't right, which is why they repeatedly blocked her plan. It's easy to see why they did. Under her proposals, many people could end up in homes that were far beyond their means. And while that might sound like a win on the surface, the aftermath could have led to even bigger problems for the village. This was just one of many instances where Tiffany's push to make things happen came under scrutiny. Let's shift gears and take a closer look at how Tiffany Henyard built her initial relationship with the residents. particularly how she managed to win them over, often with promises of free food, gifts, and support. It's no secret that she tried to buy people's favor with acts of generosity, but over time, the cracks in the strategy started to show. One example that stood out was when Tiffany announced a pre-Thanksgiving dinner for Dalton residents. The event was pitched as a way for her to give back to the community. Tomorrow, I'm hosting a free pre-Thanksgiving dinner for all my Dalton residents. I've always given back to this community over the 7 years I've been on the board. I'm located at 15800 State inside South Suburban College, and my restaurant, Good Burger, will be serving food from 4 to 6 o'clock. It's free. Just show up, talk to me, ask questions, and bring your neighbors and kids. Tiffany continued, excitedly promoting her new food truck. I got a surprise for you all. I've got my new food truck. If you're planning an event, outdoor barbecue, repast, or even a wedding, call me, Miss Good Burger at 708-819-1982, and I'll pull up on the scene for you. She even mentioned giving out free wigs to seniors for Christmas, as well as her advocacy for cancer survivors. To many, this was a sign of her commitment to the community. But as we would later see, this was also part of her larger effort to build goodwill and gain the favor of her constituents. It seemed like she was trying to create a personal connection through acts of kindness, but it raised questions about whether these actions were genuinely altruistic or more about maintaining a positive public image. In another instance, Tiffany tried to organize a holiday raffle for residents during a board meeting, but there was one issue. The raffle was illegal in a public meeting. The government attorney informed her that, as a government official, she couldn't hand out gifts like this because it could be seen as a conflict of interest or an improper use of her position. Tiffany, however, wasn't going to let this legal advice stop her. I'm not giving anything but a holiday gift to the residents. I'm just trying to do something nice for the community. The attorney again reminded her that it wasn't legal to conduct a raffle in that setting, but Tiffany stubbornly pushed back. Don't worry about it. I've got my own attorney. It's fine. This kind of behavior wasn't new for Tiffany. She had a history of pushing back against rules and regulations, even if they conflicted with the best interests of the community. While her intentions may have seemed good on the surface, her refusal to adhere to legal and ethical standards raised serious red flags. The public's perception of Tiffany started to shift after these incidents, but it didn't stop her from continuing to push her ideas forward. One of her major talking points, particularly during her tenure as a trustee, was that she wanted to give residents first priority when it came to vacant village properties. She argued that these properties shouldn't just be handed off to outside companies, but rather should be offered to residents in need. Trustee Brittany Norwood even admired this stance, noting that it showed Tiffany's genuine desire to look out for the people of Dalton. But once Tiffany became mayor, things changed. The hypocrisy of her transition from trustee to mayor once Tiffany assumed the position of mayor, the tone of her approach to governance began to shift. What was once a passionate drive for fairness now looked more like a game of contradictions. Brittany Norwood called out these contradictions during a board meeting, explaining that the promises Tiffany made as a trustee were not the same ones she kept as mayor. What happened to all those promises about prioritizing residents' needs? It seemed that once Tiffany had more power, her actions didn't quite line up with her earlier commitments. One particular issue that highlighted this shift was the matter of water shutoffs. Tiffany brought attention to the complaints of residents who had their water turned off over a long holiday weekend and weren't able to get it restored in time. She argued that if residents paid their bills by a certain time, their water should be restored the same day, especially if the payment was made on the Friday before a long weekend. She pointed to Markham, a nearby community, as an example, where water was restored the same day payments were made. However, the Public Works Department responded by explaining that with the volume of shutoffs, it wasn't always possible to restore water immediately. Despite this, Tiffany pushed for better service, demanding that Dalton's system be adjusted to restore water within the same day it was paid for. She insisted that if the village had enough manpower to shut off water, they should have enough to restore it too. The mayor, however, questioned the feasibility of Tiffany's proposal, citing concerns about overtime costs for workers who would need to extend their hours to meet this demand. Tiffany pushed back, arguing that fairness and resident service should be the top priority. She pointed out that other towns didn't have the same problem and suggested that Dalton could find a workable plan. This disagreement sparked a heated debate, with Tiffany and the mayor on opposing sides. Tiffany's push for better service was admirable on one hand, but her insistence on the issue created tension between her and the mayor, showing that despite her earlier claims of being the people's trustee, her leadership style as mayor wasn't as cooperative or conciliatory. The fallout in public perception Tiffany's style, bold promises, clashes with officials, and public controversies eventually started to unravel her image. Over time, residents and even some of the trustees began to see through the facade. While her initial charm may have won her favor with some, her disregard for rules, pushing nature, and failure to deliver on key promises made people question her integrity and true motivations. As time went on, Tiffany's trust with the residents began to erode. What started as a genuine desire to improve the community turned into a series of questionable decisions and power plays. And while her boldness in pushing through her ideas may have been impressive, it ultimately left a trail of unanswered questions and unresolved issues that tarnish her reputation. Conclusion: Tiffany Henyard's evolution from trustee to mayor is a fascinating case study in political ambition, public perception, and the complex relationship between a public official and the community they serve. While her early years as a trustee were marked by genuine attempts to help residents, her time as mayor revealed a more stubborn, less transparent side. Her actions, though often framed as acts of generosity, increasingly seemed motivated by personal interests, and the trust she initially built with the community began to unravel. If you enjoyed this comparison of trustee Tiffany Henyard to Mayor Tiffany Henyard, drop a comment below to let me know if you want more flashbacks or updates on her political journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.